This is your host, Marisol, a expat lifestyle and business coach, bringing you an episode of Roaming the Now, where expat entrepreneurs, coaches, and mentors come together to give you a behind-the-scenes look at the real and raw experience of what it actually means to set out to a new country and build a life and business abroad. Like and subscribe if you found some value in this episode, and check out the links in the description. You can find the link to get the Roaming the Now episodes delivered directly to your inbox in the description below. Hello and welcome to Roaming the Now. This is your host, Marisol, and today I have Diana Davis with me. Hello.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here.
So excited to have you here. So Diana is currently joining us from New York. However, she lives the nomad life. So feel free to introduce yourself and share a little bit about your story.
Yeah. Hi, all. I'm so excited to be here. Like I said, so funny because you and I started chatting, I think when I was in Mexico City, and then went to Colorado. And it's just so wild how many places we've been and the time and space that moves in between these events. And we're finally sitting here with our podcast mics doing the thing. I'm Diana Davis of Diana Davis Creative. I'm a business coach for creative entrepreneurs. By trade, I was a photographer and graphic designer forever. Like I shot my first wedding when I was 16. I went to school for graphic design and photography. I always knew that's what I wanted to do. I moved to New York City when I was 25 without a job and a plan. I networked my way into being a graphic designer at one of the biggest magazine publishing houses in the world and dropped my camera for about 3 years. Then got laid off, which was the best day of my life. And it really pushed me off the cliff to start the entrepreneurship journey full time. So I started photographing women in wellness, women entrepreneurs who were Reiki healers, nutritionists, yogis, fit pros, all sorts of really inspiring people that I wanted to hang around anyway. Also did a little graphic design freelance to pad my business. I'm an open book. I'm not a smoke and mirrors person. I won't lie to you that there was a lot of, income streams happening to make this happen. But I built a 6-figure business within the first year, which blew my mind because as a ranch kid from Colorado, I just didn't even think that was possible for me. And I was not making that much even in magazines, even though it was like this shiny magazine New York City job. So I started really working on my business. I had it for 3 years, which led us to 2020. And I finally hired my first business coach, which changed the game for me. I was the successful, in quotes, photographer. I was busy. I was always getting shoots, but I was burning out. I never knew when the next thing was coming. I was underpricing myself. When I'd go on, say, like a family trip back home, I'd be editing photos in the shotgun seat of my dad's pickup. Like no matter where we were, I was working. And it just was really taking its toll. So I finally hired my first business coach, changed the game for me. And then the pandemic happened and we pivoted. And it wasn't really because of the pandemic, but it finally gave me space to explore this opportunity of mentorship and coaching. So I coach other creative entrepreneurs, yogis, Reiki healers, the same people I was photographing, photographers, graphic designers, consultants, chefs, all sorts of really incredible people, mostly women. And now I do that full time. I dropped photography and graphic design like August of 2020 and never looked back. And now I live this remote nomad lifestyle doing what I love. So that's my very complicated timeline in a very short, like 2-minute stint.
I was like, kudos to you. You really like succinct to that down. I followed the story though. I love the transparency of, you had other roles or other things that you were doing when you were first starting out on your own, right? I feel like that's the part of the story that people miss out on a lot. They don't share like, hey, actually I did have other things to help supplement my income because it takes time, right? As you're like building that business. I also love the transparency of like, I was burning out. Like you can be really successful, right? Like in the numbers in the paper, but I feel like that really goes into this conversation of what is success, right? Is success like that number in the bank account? Or is it like, do you feel balanced in your life? Do you feel present? Like, do you feel the freedom? So that brings us
Ah,
to our lovely topic of discussion today, which I'm really excited about, is designing your business around the freedom that you desire, whatever that value is that you desire. Because I know that we were talking about that, and you have done that in such a beautiful way.
yeah. Thank you. I think, I'm 33 now, and I really do think things look differently for everyone depending on what stage of their life they're in, right? Like freedom to me, when I was in corporate working for Time Inc., working on publications like Time Magazine and Travel and Leisure and Real Simple and all these fancy brands, freedom looked like to me being able to even use my camera because I wasn't at the time. Freedom looked to me like being able to pay my credit card bill. I was in like 30 grand of debt. I was just a mess. Um, and freedom also looked like to me dreaming of being able to travel for work. Like, what? That was so far in my mind. And I was probably 27 or so at the time. And so much has changed. And I know you and I talked about like what is freedom actually, right? And I think that's the most important question for everyone listening is what does that mean to you? Maybe it is the number in your bank account, and that's okay. Maybe it is being able to have time with your kids whenever you want that. Maybe it is being able to live nomadically like I'm doing and not have anything tying you down. Maybe it's the freedom to like, I was literally laying on the couch reading a book 15 minutes ago, like doing that in the middle of the day. And so really getting clear, like I talk about a lot in my programs of scheduling your dream life. What does that dream life look like though? You can't schedule it or you can't know what freedom you're working towards unless you know what you want. And that's changed for me a lot in the last few years of being in my 30s. I think, I'm really into astrology and human design and all of that stuff. And so much, so I'm a Gemini and a manifesting generator to the max, like the Geminiest Gemini that ever Gemini'd. And a big thing for me is in my 20s, I had to experience the thing to know about it and to know if I wanted to do it or not. Some people think through it, some people source information. I had to experience it, like literally throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing if it stuck. And in my 30s, I'm really, even in my chart, is like grounding more and taking naps and slowing down. Um, so yeah, I think it's important to think about what freedom means to you.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned astrology and human design. So and I'm sure you've heard this before. I'm definitely a creative, and through many trial and error with business coaches, obviously those all have their lessons, right? Like I do believe every investment has a lesson. I was using strategies that weren't working, and I was like, "What is wrong with me?" And so I finally just hit the breaking point where I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna take a break. I'm not investing in any more business coaches because like I'm just getting these rinse and repeat things that are draining my energy. I'm really frustrated because nothing is working. So then I went to the stars, I went to the energetic charts, and I'm a generator, I'm a sacral authority. And, in all my astrology placements, like when I really consulted it and everything, it was like, oh, like my 10th house, like the public persona is in Gemini. So it's the messenger, it's speaking, it's podcasting, it's written communication. And even when I was understanding like how to build my offerings, like people think like being a generator is like passive, but it's actually not this whole idea of waiting to respond. The whole idea is around being active and noticing what's coming into your environment. Like, what are people talking to you about, right? Like, what are people asking you about? And then using that information to create your offers. And once I like realized that, and once I really like just absorbed all this and was like, oh, I have a unique way of doing things, was when everything started to change for me in my business and like having fun. And so I'm sure you probably heard a story like mine before.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like that's freedom too, right? To do I always say I am really truly a coach for creatives. I'm not a coach's coach. Like I have clients that are coaches, but I'm not just like someone who's going to pass down a blueprint, and say like, this is the way business is done and this is how I do it. And please rinse and repeat, like you were saying. And I love the idea that we're all so freaking unique and we get to decide how we want to run our businesses, how we want to create these offers. Like maybe we are looking totally outside our industry. Maybe we're looking at the car industry or the workout industry or whatever that looks like and going, I could take that and use it for my business. How cool could that be? Right. And I think then layering the human design and the astrology and numerology and Enneagram and anything you want to layer in and just getting more curious about you and how you show up. And that is a big freedom piece for me too, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'm 100% on the same page. We all have a unique energetic blueprint. We all have a unique energy, and that's going to impact how do we do business in the way that like works for us, right? Because I too oftentimes, and you hinted to it, people find themselves working for the business, working for the strategy.
Yep.
How do you like make that shift where things are working like for you?
Totally. Totally.
Yeah. And so, like, speaking to creatives
Mhm.
and really thinking about, like, what do you find most creatives want to experience? Like, what are we really? I guess I'm curious as I find I identify as a creative, but like, what do you find in your work most creatives like want to experience, especially when we're thinking about this experience of traveling or being nomadic or remote?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different for everyone. Um, Not everyone should be an entrepreneur. Not everyone should be a nomad. Like it really does depend on your unique energetic blueprint. Like some people are creatives, but they're very structured and very organized and very planned out. And that's so beautiful. And then you have people like me who just are all over the map, pollinating all the flowers, like wanting to try all the things and really leading in that. But I find the commonalities in creatives and why we have such a hard time building freedom in our businesses and in our lives is because we have this heart-centered gift and we have such a hard time putting it out into the world and such a hard time asking people to pay us for it. So one of the freedoms is money, right? Like let's just be real. We want to have all these um you know really idealistic qualities about us where we're just like we're good people and we want to give and that's what we want it to be about and we want it to be about the impact and but money really does matter at the end of the day. Like we can't be starving artists and that's why I'm here to debunk that. So with the money side, because we have, and I'm not saying everyone, like if you're creative and you have no problem putting your shit out there and charging for it, epic. Like you are paving the way for a lot of people. Keep doing that. But for those of you who really have a hard time with that or feel, conceited for doing so, or I don't want it to be all about me, it's supposed to be about the art or the photography or the work, we have to realize that that's a freedom. And if we don't support ourselves with the money side of things and know our numbers and know how to price our services, we're never going to have freedom because we're always going to be shackled to this creative endeavor that we're almost like, I exaggerate in that we say, I will pay you to let me take your photos just to be able to do what I love to do. And it's like, that's not sustainable. So freedom really is money also.
Yeah, that's actually so true. I I find this often, and it's like there's no. I feel like the more we talk about it, like the less shame there is around it, right? With money, especially in the work that I do with people, like money's a big thing. Money is something that comes up all the time, and money is such a complex thing to really dive into. But I realized that, as I was doing my own money work, I said, like, money allows me to be more of me.
Yeah.
Having money allows me to do more of the things that make me happy. And when I'm in that flow and in that state, then I'm being myself, like in the full entirety. And so, like, in thinking about that, because I see this happen a lot. I see a lot of creatives, people who want that freedom and are very creative, travel, but then they end up like having to come back because all the money's gone. Um,
Yep. Relatable. Let's just be
relatable,
real.
right? Um, I guess like based on where you're at now, like
Mhm.
what if someone was wanting to, go into that, maybe finances or something, they're still like learning, right? I always say like we're always learning and redefining our relationship. But it always kind of when I talk to people, are like, no, I went abroad and then yeah, I ran out of money and then I came back and now I'm just here. Like what advice would you actually give to someone who like wants to break out of that cycle of like creative, maybe freelancing and then okay, run out of money, go back home. But it's like that cycle of just having to kind of like
Yeah.
freedom, not free, freedom, not free.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a good point. I would say really working backwards, like knowing the GPS location, right? And then working backwards and saying, okay, which route am I going to take? And I also will kind of wrap this up in a bow, but also the idea that we are entrepreneurs, not corporate workers where we have a salary. I think we really get stuck in that old school thinking of like, okay, I get paid $2,000 every 2 weeks and that's all I have. And I have to subtract from that. I have to take $300 out, every paycheck for groceries. And then I have this much left for my Airbnb or my hostel or my rent or whatever that looks like. And as entrepreneurs, I think we often forget and get in that scarcity mindset that we can actually make more money anytime we want. Like we get to make money out of thin air. How freaking cool. So instead of, you know, going nomadic and being like, shit, ran out of money, maybe we can go, what if I signed one more client to cover this month's rent? What if I, say my roadmap says I need to make 10K a month to make this work. And I've researched a little bit, like taken some Virgo Capricorn energy, even if you don't have it in your chart, researched a little bit, planned out a little bit, and go, okay, is this possible for me to live the life I want on 10K a month, just as an example? What does that look like? Maybe I'm going to different countries than I thought. Maybe I'm doing a private room in an Airbnb versus a whole house. Maybe I'm staying in hostels. Maybe I'm doing something like remote year. Maybe I'm collaborating with a partner and traveling with them so we can split costs. Who knows what that looks like, but we can be creative about our solutions. And then we go, okay, 10K should do it. How are the ways that I can make 10K a month? Is it 10 clients at $1,000? Is it a group program? Is it mini shoots wherever I go? I was actually going to travel full time in 2020. LOL. That didn't happen. I was still a photographer at the time, and I was working with someone to really brainstorm ways in which this would work. Because we talk about building the business around your life. My life wanted to look like travel. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to sit here and have the most successful business I could and just be shackled to that. I want to go live this life while I'm still young. I haven't traveled a lot yet. I want to see all the places. Like if I died tomorrow, I want to be in all the places that I've had on my list. So, what does that look like? Am I now pivoting and really doing brand partnerships with hotels? Am I trying to photograph retreats instead of hustling for random $300 shoots while I'm in different places? Am I picking up some graphic design again because I have that in my toolbox to really regulate my nervous system and make me feel safe and make that budget happen? Am I who knows what, right? I even started, which this never came to fruition, but started the bones for my own stock photography company. And that was going to be like, okay, I can shoot wherever I am. And my wellness people can use these photos and they can just keep having a bank of photos to use, even though I'm not in the location where they're at. So I think as creatives, we need to be really creative and really think in that abundance mindset of I can make more instead of subtracting from the amount that we have.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. I can definitely tell you're multi-passionate. Would you say that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So in speaking to the multi-passionate entrepreneur, because right, traditional business advice, especially for the creative, it's like so for me, it's like, like I feel like this contraction in my body because traditional business advice, especially for someone who wants to, travel, move around, they're like, have one thing, do it well, do this, do that, right? Niche, 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 blah, blah, blah. And I found that like for me, never really worked. And as much as like I tried, it felt so constricting, and it felt like it sucked the creativity out of things. So what would you say to the multi-passionate entrepreneur listening, the multi-passionate creative?
I've already cussed on here. Am I allowed to cuss on here?
Yes, you can.
Okay, great. Because I'm going to cuss some more. Be a fucking rebel. Like, just be a rebel. I feel you so much in that I am so tired. Even the group, I'm in masterminds right now. I've never not had a coach since I first invested in a coach. Usually I have 1 to 3. Like, I love support and I will get support in every realm of my life moving forward. But I am so tired of being told how to do this, and this is the way. I'm so done. I am not against the masculine. We need a riverbed to have a river, right? Or we're a lake. We have to have the structure. It's important. But I'm against the way I'm being told to do the masculine, which is creating the programs, creating the marketing, doing the things. And so I'm just saying, like, some of these, sure, like founders are problematic, whatever, they're still freaking geniuses. Like Steve Jobs, etc. All these people who created something out of nothing and something truly revolutionary did not follow the rules, right? So if you're creative, like, listen to the rules that people are telling you, kind of like in art school. If anyone listening went to art school, you learn the rules so you can break them. So be the rebel, be open-minded, don't be like bullheaded about it, but really follow your gut and intuition. Know how you tick first so that you can learn how you react to certain information, knowing if it's aligned for you, and pivot and go your own direction, and be bold and take leaps and do something different that no one's doing. Do something different that's calling you. Or if it's calling you to make it really freaking simple, do that too. But just listen to yourself and be careful of all the information coming in at you.
Yeah, I second that. The information. But I am in agreement totally. I really kind of got to the point where I was like, fuck what everyone is telling me to do. I'm just going to do what I wanted.
Yeah. And I'm actually curious, like, for the people listening, because these will be my people too, what did you find that worked for you?
Yeah, so I found that just honoring the fact that like yes, I help people with like emotional things, right? Like I work with people to overcome emotional barriers to access their life of freedom, which looks different for everyone. But what I found is that I was limiting myself of I have to have an I help statement or I have to put myself as like I'm a this that coach or I'm a this coach. And what I found was all of that I just felt was very constricting. And at the end of the day, it actually did not matter what I was calling myself because when I was working with clients, they were calling me something completely different based on their experience. And so for me, what was the most liberating decision is I like human design. I love astrology. I've used it to make such a profound impact in doing things that really light me up and excite me. So I'm going to share this. And I can share this in the way that I want to and how it relates to what I'm doing. And there's that. And the more I do that, and the more I understand that, okay, like I love podcasting, right? I love connecting with people and I love having conversations. Okay, cool. As long as my energy is invested in it and I'm excited and I'm enjoying this process, things have movement and they have traction. Versus when I fit in the box of how it should be done or this is what works, nothing happens. And I really just feel like it was this moment of like, I don't know if I was in the shower. I had like a download in the shower. I don't know.
As we do.
I was in the shower and I had this like aha moment of I've always done things my way. So why did I get myself in the headspace that someone else knew how to do this better than me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, I recognize like there are some like very specific things I would hire, like, and as I always say, I have nothing against hiring a business coach or like any type of coach or mentor, just practicing a lot more discernment of are we like in the frequency of like you understand that I do have a very unique way of doing things. Like, do you like, can we work with that? Can we collaborate in that matter? Because I think that's really, really important because I've just often found myself in spaces where it's like, do this way, do this way, do this way. And then when it doesn't work, I'm hit with like, well, like, are you being consistent? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? And I'm like, okay, like I'm doing all the things they're telling to me to do. And it's like not working.
Yeah. Yeah. I think entrepreneurship is truly the most spiritual journey, personal development journey you can go on. And if you're not willing to do the inner work, usually it's like we have this strategy and it's going to look different for everyone. And you're going to have hats that you're going to try on. You're going to have tools. It's like, I'm an analogy person. I used the analogy the other day. Like, there's like probably 150, if not way more, designs of hammers. You can use whichever one you want, right? And you might like to the death say, this hammer is the best. But someone else is going to say, no, this one actually works for me. And here's why. But sometimes you have to know, first of all, how to even work a hammer, what the purpose of the hammer is. It's really important to know the landscape. Just like in art, like I said, you learn the rules to break the rules. If you don't know color theory, you can't break the rules, right? So it's important to know these basics of like, you might go, okay, I learned an I help statement. That actually helped me get really clear on who this ideal client is, maybe for this specific offer or whatever. Or it helped me get clear of like, I don't even want to go this route. I'm just going to put myself out there. And that's okay. And that can be a really good investment too. I always tell my clients, like, there is no end all be all. There's no right answer. Take what you want and leave the rest. And know that if you want to leave it, that's just as important to know as taking something and using it. So I love that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly just want to echo what you said, like especially for anyone who wants to invest in a coach or mentor, anyone really learn how to practice the discernment piece of
Yes.
take what you want and leave the rest. And this too, what you just said, like through all this experience, it helped me get really clear if these are all the ways that don't work for me.
Right.
And now I have so much more clarity on what works for me, as well as like when you were speaking to like the hammer analogy, every hammer is unique and has its unique purpose, right? And so the more that you, as the entrepreneur, as a creative, confidently embrace what makes you uniquely you, you are able to stand out and you're able to really shine in a market where everyone is just rinsing and repeating. And so this is where, as you said, it really is the biggest spiritual inner work journey being an entrepreneur. But the more I really like sat in that space, I was like, that's just like, this is really true. The more you leverage your uniqueness and your unique gifts, the more you shine in a marketplace where everyone is doing the same thing. It's like life. I feel like that analogy can go so many different ways.
Yeah. And I think, that's the biggest thing I teach is like, okay, we have this toolbox that we can pull from. Strategy all fucking day if you want it. But at the end of the day, you are the secret sauce, as they say, which is so buzzy and so oversaid, but it's so true. And how cool, as creative entrepreneurs, almost always, we are a personal brand. We are the product for the most part. Like I work with jewelry designers, I work with ceramicists, I work with candle makers, map makers, all sorts of people who have a product. But at the end of the day, they're still hiring you. Why I stood out in a city, like the biggest city in America with, God, I wish I had the stat of how many tens of thousands of photographers are in this city who are just as good as each other, who a lot of people will do it for free, right? It's like such a hustle. So how do you get clients as a photographer in New York City? You be you. You magnetize people because of you being you and them wanting to work with you as a soul, you as a human. So how cool. The answer is like, we get to just show up as us. And that's the answer. That's the secret. The strategy is great. It can make our lives easier. It can make things work automatically in the back end while I'm freaking sleeping in Australia and the US is awake and my team is doing things without me even being aware. Yeah, that's a lot of the strategy too. But really, at the end of the day, it's about being you and showing up authentically and just honestly.
Yeah. It really is. I like echoing like just strategy to support you being the most authentic you that you can be, not forcing yourself to work with a strategy if it's actually not going to support you in being the most authentic you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love
Okay,
it.
so you spoke to the traveling, you spoke
Yes.
to the retreats. I would love for you to share a little bit more what you do on these retreats because I've seen it on your socials of you being like, we're going to Greece and we're going to do this, and seeing what people share. So I'd love for you to just speak to the creation process of that.
Yeah. So nomadically, now I'm obviously not photographing and I don't have a stock photography business and I don't have to photograph retreats and people abroad to make my living work. I'm a business coach and I can take my calls anywhere. But that also means I'm missing a big part of me, and that's getting my hands dirty in real life. I'm a rancher's daughter. Like, I actually saw this really humble coffee farm in Guatemala that this guy started in November of 2021. And ever since then, I was just like, God, there's something more. And so I hosted my first retreat in September of 2022, last summer, in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, my home state. And it was the most magical thing I've ever experienced. And I put it on. I would like not even bragging, just like it was magic. The people were magic. It was perfect. The connections that were made, the life changing events that happened afterwards, it's incredible. So I decided to do another one. We're doing Greece, May 4th through the 9th. So either you're hearing this afterwards or right before, but it's going to be incredible. We're basically vacationing together, traveling together, and then also growing our businesses at the same time. So daily business coaching, but also breath work and yoga put on by our wellness facilitator. We have a Greek chef the whole time, like everything's included. We're going to be hiking. We have a cooking class, wine tasting, going out on the boat, just like experiencing life, putting down our laptop for a second, like taking a week off, letting things run, like letting our creativity cup fill back up. Yeah, so that's Greece, and that's kind of what's been feeding me as far as just getting my hands dirty and getting that in real life vibe. And it's just incredible to be, I don't have, you've been on a lot of retreats. I mean, even plant medicine stuff is so powerful. It's like
Yes.
you are bonded with those people forever.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is really interesting because that's actually something that's been in the back of my mind a lot lately. Is there's something about working and being in real life and not on the laptop that my soul, my spirit really craves. And where I live, like it is kind it is easy to. I live in a pueblo Mexico in Mexico, so it's like really easy to just like close my laptop and step away, but I'm curious for you, like, what was like, so it was like, what was it about the experience being on the coffee farm that made you really realize, like, I want more real life, like less laptop time?
Yeah. I just saw this, it was this German dude who just like moved to Guatemala and started this coffee farm like 20 years ago. And it was just so humble and it was working. It's like, I think we're getting really lost in that too with this Instagram world, especially the freaking coaching industry. I'm here like, let's make a lot of money as good people and really do good things with that money. But are you not successful if you don't have a 7-figure business? Like, I'm just over it, you know? It's like, what are we even shooting for? What about where we're at now? Are we enjoying the freedom we're creating now versus like, here are these crazy goals and whatever? I digress. Point being, this was a very humble situation. It did what it needed to do. It provided a bunch of jobs for the people. It was kind of a community situation where people could bring their own coffee beans from their own trees and roast them and bag them. It was just like cool. And you literally got your hands dirty. It was like, I am a foodie, and I think fruit is literally the biggest miracle. It's so amazing to me that from this tiny little bud can come something that nourishes our body and is so stunning and whatever it is. So the coffee bean, like seeing it on the tree and peeling it open and seeing what was inside and seeing it go from the roasting process and the different ways that you can do that, and then grinding it to I don't even drink coffee. I drink matcha. It just is so incredible to me. And so it just sparked something in me. And I don't honestly know what the end result is yet. Retreats are what's filling that right now for me. But I think there's something more. Like, I don't know if I own a blueberry farm or if I start like some sort of matcha shop, or I have no idea. But there is nothing like in-person work, getting your hands dirty, seeing something go from start to finish, becoming really close with your customers in person. Like, there's something about it. And so I'm just craving that a lot more. I love what I do and I love my clients, and I don't think it's like a pivot, but it's just a deepening. So stay tuned. We don't know.
Okay, I love that. I had a similar experience. So, part of me being multi-passionate, I have Charlotte Squinkles, so they're like the traditional hairless dogs that also have hair, but they're like
Okay.
very representative of the culture. But what happened is that my dogs had puppies, and so I was in the process of like, wow, okay, like, people think that mom dogs are like automatic, but that's actually not the case. Like sometimes animals need help taking care of their kids because they're not there. And so it was through the process of me like helping taking care of the puppies, feeding them, really watching them evolve and grow, and just realizing like how similar to what you said, being present in the moment, having my hands like involved. There was just something where I was like, I want like more of this. Like, so like, am I gonna have more puppies? Am I gonna have like I'm still figuring it out too.
Yeah, I feel you. As a ranch kid, it was always hands-on. We had, just like you're saying, like baby chicks, we had baby border collies, we got to see so much life. And I think it's really beautiful what humans have built. And we're so innovative and we're so just like tech savvy, and like, what a miracle. But also, we're getting lost in it. And me too. Like, I'm the biggest culprit of it. I'm on Instagram all the fucking time. I'm on laptops all the fucking time. And it's like, what if we went back and just put our hands in the soil? Like, that's what we're missing. If we keep going on this virtual situation, we're going to lose everything. And I feel that deeply and letting it be little things in your life that are like, oh my God, my dog had a litter of puppies. This feels so good to get off my screen and like help and play. And, how can we do more of that?
Yeah. I cannot echo what you said even more. I mean, I love the innovation and I see its place, and it is right. I have so much respect and it's so cool. However, I feel like the word that was just like lost in the sauce of we are communal beings. We thrive in community. There is something, as as you were mentioning on your retreats, like magic happens when people are in a space connecting authentically and sharing. And it's just really magical. And like, I've attended a virtual retreat, but nothing is going to match the like idea of being in, being in person, like in a woman's circle or something, right?
Right.
It- It's a completely different experience. And so I'm definitely there with, how can I facilitate more human to human connection? Like in real
Yeah.
life, love the online space, so cool. But also I love animals, super cool.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason, not all my clients are tactical creatives, but I do have so many tactical creatives. I have a textile artist in my program, Camp Clarity, right now. There's, seamstresses, there's all sorts of people, ceramicists, like I said, cartographers, map makers. I want so badly, like, for them to be able to make a living off of what they love, because this stuff, it's got to keep going. Like, we don't want to lose it like we've lost so many other things. Like, if people are willing to make, we need more makers. Like, part of the problem, my mom and I, this is a whole other conversation, will diverge, but is we're not doing anything with our hands anymore. So we're losing even people like plumbers and people who are trade people. So I find a lot of people actually do want to work with their hands and be really passionate about that stuff. So I'm really passionate about helping them grow that business so they can actually thrive and make it happen.
Yes, I love that you said that. And it's funny you mentioned plumbers. My dad has been an entrepreneur, owned his plumbing business for like my entire life, and he literally makes over six figures a year. I don't know when being a plumber went out of style or when it
Right?
became not cool, because you can literally make more money within 2 to 3 years than you would at that 9 to 5 job that you're going to get that's going to make you sit at your desk. So I just want
Absolutely.
to let that be known.
Yep. Yep. So
Yeah.
true. Us millennials, I don't know that we have it right. We need to wake up a little bit. Yeah.
I don't think so. Yeah, it was funny. There was a joke growing up where my dad was like, "Are you gonna be a plumber?" And I was like, "I see the potential in it, Dad. I love you and I respect your profession, but I don't think that's really my calling."
Yeah. Yeah. But it inspires you, and it probably contributed to your work ethic, just like my ranching parents did for me. Yeah.
100%. Oh, so good. So before we sign off, I would love for you to just like really share with like the audience, the creative who wants to travel but is feeling a little stuck. Like what would be this like first step of advice you give to them to really kind of just start building that like healthy foundation to get ready to boop, we're gonna move and we're gonna take action.
Yeah. I would say a lot of, reiterating what I said as far as like the map and figuring out what you want it to look like and planning a little bit, and maybe even doing a trial run, you know, going for a month and seeing how it feels. Maybe not planning out a year, making sure that you go to a place you've been wanting to go to, set up your time zones so your calls or your photo shoots or whatever is happening works for you. Like, remembering all of this should work for you. Because if you're not, if you're taking calls at 1 a.m. and that's not what you want to be doing, that's not freedom. Those are shackles. You get to decide. You're the boss. So really think about those things. Like, how do I want my ideal day to look as a nomad? And let's go try that out and see how we feel about it, and come back and look at it as a scientific type of thing. Like, what worked, what didn't, how can we shift things? How can we make it feel more free? Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know that I would do this if I wasn't doing it in my very 33-year-old version of nomading. I don't want a hostel and backpack. Like, that's not the vibe for me. I would, if I was going to do that, I personally would rather just take like 3 months off and just do that. But for me, I'm working all day. I'm on a computer. I want my space to be really sun filled and all the stuff. So it looks differently for me. So I would just ask, what are your priorities? And go give it a test drive.
Beautiful. Lifestyle design.
Yes.
I said
Yep.
something else. Lifestyle design. Yeah, because it is really true. You have to really think about what's important to you. What do you really want to be experiencing? Have that idea in mind. And then, as you were saying earlier in the episode, like get creative. What are the different ways that you can do this?
And then
Mhm.
that's really how to make it work for you in a longevity way, and just really echoing like making things work for you. Don't make it.
Yeah.
There's like, if you're doing it the other around, like other way around, like I always kind of think like if you're working for your business, you're kind of replicating what you were doing at the 9 to 5, which is why you left the 9 to 5, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And go bounce it off of some people. Like create your own little masterminding situation. Be like, "Hey, what would you think of as a photographer abroad in Barcelona? What do you think I could do?" And just start to gather information and evidence that it's possible. Something I always recommend is like cultivating expanders of people who have kind of paved the way where you think you might want to go. It doesn't have to look exact. And instead of comparing yourself to them or competing with them, really looking at them as expansive, going, okay, this person is doing it this way. I'm going to take some notes and they are going to help expand my idea of what's possible.
Love that advice. People, yeah. It's just like, yeah, allowing people to. I always look at people as like inspiring. I'm like, why is this person inspiring me? And so
Yeah.
I always want to get curious about it, right? Because I think that people can fall into the comparison, or they're like, oh, comparing. No, don't do that. You don't know their whole story. You don't know what they've been through, right? So it is very much so like, this person's inspiring me. Why are they inspiring me? Hmm.
Absolutely.
What is it in them that is sparking something in me that I maybe am not fully showing?
Totally.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your valuable shares. Honestly, such a great episode. I remember this morning I was like, I'm sure today's just going to be a really inspiring conversation. I can't wait for it.
Yay. Love it. Ditto. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I am just signing off. This is your host, Marisol, hoping that you are enjoying wherever you are in the world. And until next time, yeah, just have fun. Be yourself.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Roaming the Now. And until next time, make sure to like and subscribe if you found some value in this episode, and check out the links in the description. You can find the link to get the Roaming the Now episodes delivered directly to your inbox in the description below. So until our next episode, have fun, live in the present moment, and enjoy roaming the now wherever you are in the world.